It's better if you don't come for New Year's, my dad said quietly. We'll just say you're traveling, my sister added, without even looking at me. I didn't say a word. But I did this. When his girlfriend saw my photo on the fridge, she packed her things and left without saying a word. 2 days later, my mom called me crying and didn't hang up until she asked me for forgiveness. The phone vibrated on the nightstand just as I was finishing my 36-hour shift in the ER. Dad. How strange. It was usually Mom who called to check if I was still alive after those endless shifts. I swiped the screen while taking the stethoscope off my neck, that familiar weight that means hope for many patients, but for my family, it was always the symbol of my lesser career. Hi Dad, I'm just leaving the hospital. His voice sounded different, like when he needs to ask me for something but doesn't want to admit it. A mix of preemptive guilt and cold practicality. We're organizing New Year's dinner, he began without saying hello. Your brother is bringing Valeria. She's an important girl. Her father is a director at the bank where Daniel just got promoted. He paused, and it weighed like lead. You know how these things are, sweetheart. No, I didn't know how these things were. Or maybe I did, and that's why I felt that lump forming in my throat. Last week, I saved a 5-year-old boy who arrived in cardiac arrest. His tiny fingers clung to mine when he regained consciousness, and his mother hugged me, crying as if I were part of the family. But here I was, listening to my own father search for words to exclude me from the most basic family circle. I think it would be better if you didn't come for New Year's, he finally said quietly. I mean, you'll be tired after your shifts, right? You could take the opportunity to rest. The silence between us stretched like a terminal illness. I could hear my own breathing, slightly quickened. Behind me, the hospital break room filled with the murmur of my co-workers planning their family celebrations. Dad, I began, but I heard interference on the line. A second voice. My sister had taken the phone. Anna, be reasonable, Sarah said, without bothering to say hello. Daniel needs to make a good impression. We'll say you're traveling, so it doesn't seem strange that you're not there. She sounded so practical, so efficient in her betrayal. The same sister who years ago had held my hand at graduation while our parents stared at their watches, impatient to leave for Daniel's awards dinner. My mind involuntarily traveled to that Christmas, 5 years ago. My first year as a licensed nurse. I had proudly brought a small plaque that the department head gave me for exceptional dedication. I put it on the table while they served dinner, hoping someone would ask about it. No one did. When Daniel announced he had an interview at the bank, Dad popped open the champagne he'd been saving since I was born. I remember it perfectly because he had always said it was for a special moment in his princess's life. Turns out that moment was his son's preliminary achievement. I understand, was all I could say as I looked at my reflection in the hospital window. A 28-year-old woman with her hair in a messy ponytail, deep under-eye circles, and a uniform that smelled of disinfectant and dedication. I said nothing more. What for? The exclusion came wrapped in fake consideration, like a malignant tumor disguised as a harmless mole. I know you understand, Sarah sighed with obvious relief. You've always been so understanding. When I hung up, something had changed inside me. It wasn't anger, not even sadness. It was clarity. Like when you finally diagnose a tricky disease after discarding confusing symptoms. For the first time, I saw the full pattern. It wasn't an isolated incident, it was a chronic condition. The disease was called, "You'll never be enough for us." A single tear rolled down my cheek, but not many more would follow. Sometimes, respect isn't begged for. It's earned in silence. And as I put the phone back in my uniform pocket, I knew it was time to stop begging. That night, sitting in my small apartment, I opened the drawer where I kept the few family photos I still had. One in particular stopped me. It was from 2 years ago, during a brief family truce. We were all together around Mom's birthday cake. The only time someone had asked me to wear my nurse uniform, because Mom wanted to show off to her friends that she had a daughter in the medical field. A half-truth, since I later overheard her clarifying that I was just a nurse, not a doctor, but still helped quite a bit. I stared at the photo for a long time, noticing something I had never seen before. My white uniform stood out against everyone else's formal outfits. It was like a visual reminder that I never really fit in. Always the odd note. I ran my fingers over the glossy paper, feeling beneath it a story that suddenly seemed to carry a different meaning. The image brought back a memory from just 6 months ago, during a shift in the ER. A young woman had come in after a minor car accident. She wasn't seriously injured, but she was shaking uncontrollably. Panic attack. I stayed with her after the doctors determined there were no physical injuries. I held her hand and spoke to her with the voice I reserve for my most frightened patients. Her name was Valeria. I had never seen someone so vulnerable transform so quickly. Between sobs, she told me she had just ended a toxic 3-year relationship. The accident happened because her ex had followed her in his car as she tried to get away. The police would come later to take her statement. She was terrified. "You're the only person who's actually listened to me today," she said. She hugged me before she left, so tightly I could feel her tears soaking into my uniform. We only exchanged first names that night. I never knew her last name, and she never knew mine. But now, looking at the family photo, with the name Valeria echoing in my head after Dad's call, something clicked. Could it be the same person? Coincidences happen, sure, but this one carried a sense of fate I couldn't ignore. I didn't plan anything elaborate. There was no room for grand revenge schemes in my post-shift exhaustion. I simply took the photo, placed it in an envelope, scribbled the family address I knew by heart, and added a short note, "So you don't forget to tell the guests I'm traveling. Happy New Year. Anna." I went out at midnight and dropped it in the nearest mailbox with express delivery. My silent gift would arrive just in time for the celebration. My nurse uniform was never enough to impress them, but it had saved someone's life, someone who truly appreciated it. That thought stayed with me as I walked home under the cold December drizzle. New Year's Eve arrived. As fireworks exploded outside my window, I imagined the scene at my parents' house. The table set with the fine china they only used for special occasions. Mom would have made her famous roast, Daniel's favorite. Dad would be pouring the expensive wine he saved for important guests, not for his nurse daughter. And Valeria. I pictured her being polite, nervous about making a good impression. Maybe in an elegant dress, listening attentively to Daniel's success stories, smiling at the right moments. Discreetly scanning the house to get to know her boyfriend's family better. Pausing at the strategically placed family photos. I saw her walking toward the kitchen, offering to help with the dishes or drinks. Opening the fridge to grab more ice or maybe a sauce. And there it would be, my photo, held up by a souvenir magnet from one of Daniel's trips. The nurse in the white uniform, surrounded by family, looking straight into the camera with a smile that now seemed to hold a secret. How long would it take her to recognize me? Seconds? A minute? The moment of realization would be quiet, internal. First doubt, then certainty. The same nurse who held her hand during a panic attack. Who gave her water and dried her tears while they waited for the police. Who told her she deserved better than someone who chased her through the streets. Now, the missing sister of her boyfriend. The one who was supposedly traveling, but whose recent note contradicted that lie. I didn't need to scream or expose anyone. The truth has a quiet way of coming to light. And as I lit a small candle on the cupcake I bought to celebrate myself, I felt an unfamiliar peace. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for anyone's approval. The first day of the year began with an unusual calm. My apartment, that place I barely visit between shifts, felt different. I can't quite explain it. Like something had changed overnight, and not just on the calendar. I poured myself some coffee in my favorite mug, the one my team gave me on my first anniversary in the ER. You know, the one that says, "For the one who heals with her hands and listens with her heart," in letters now fading from overuse. I stared out the window as the city slowly woke up from its collective New Year's hangover. I hadn't received a single message from my family. Normally, I'd at least get one of those generic texts from Mom. "Happy New Year, sweetheart, hope you got some rest." But this time, nothing. Complete silence. And you know what's weird? It didn't hurt. Not at all. It was like ripping off a band-aid that had been stuck for too long. It pulls a little, stings for a second, and then, relief. That day, everything became crystal clear. Some families don't love you, they love the version of you that fits their expectations. I was never going to be that version. And for the first time in my life, I was completely at peace with that. I wasn't there, obviously, but I later heard how it all unfolded. Valeria noticed my photo near the end of dinner. It happened by chance. She offered to go get more ice, always the perfect girlfriend, right? And boom, there I was, smiling from the fridge. My face held up by that awful Eiffel Tower magnet Daniel brought back from a corporate trip. Just picture it. Her hand frozen mid-reach. That moment of, wait, is this real? Realizing the nurse who held her hand for hours after her ex chased her through the city was me. The same nurse who stayed after her shift to make sure the police took her statement properly. Anna. My name echoing in her head. Then it clicked. Anna. Daniel's sister. The one who was supposedly traveling. But the envelope with yesterday's postmark was sitting right there beside the photo. My note, no ambiguity, so you don't forget to tell the guests I'm traveling. Happy New Year. Anna. She didn't cause a scene. I heard that later. She simply returned to the table, finished her dessert, and when everyone was gearing up for the midnight countdown, she said she wasn't feeling well. She went to the guest room, packed her things, and left a note next to the keys. Daniel had given her way too early, always so sure of himself, my dear brother. I'm leaving. Don't follow me. Thanks for dinner. Short and to the point. She left while the fireworks lit up the sky, and no one even noticed. On the second day of the new year, my phone rang. I looked at it like it might explode. Mom. I won't lie, I almost didn't answer. But something inside me, maybe the same part that makes me stay late with patients no one else wants to deal with, made me swipe the screen. Her voice barely got my name out. Anna, sweetheart. She was crying. Mom never cries. Or at least, I had never heard her do it. She told me everything between sobs and long pauses. How Valeria left without giving any real explanation. How Daniel was devastated, pacing around the house like an angry zombie, breaking things. How Dad and Daniel had gotten into a screaming match like never before. You knew her, didn't you? Valeria. She recognized you in the photo. I didn't answer. What for? Sometimes it's better to let people fill in the blanks themselves. I'm so sorry, Anna. We shouldn't have excluded you like that. We shouldn't have lied. We shouldn't have. I heard her unraveling. A mother who had always held it together, now falling apart word by word. Want to know something? I didn't feel the satisfaction I thought I would. I cried with her. Silently, of course, so she wouldn't hear me. It wasn't joy at her pain. It was something more complex. Like finally letting go of a weight you'd carried for so long you forgot what it felt like to be without it. Mom kept talking for nearly an hour. Recalling moments where they had made me feel like less. Justifying herself and then taking it back in tears. She didn't hang up until the words, "forgive me," left her trembling lips more than once. 3 weeks later, while I was organizing files in my new role as head nurse, yes, I got promoted. I received a message from Valeria. She had gotten my number through contacts at the hospital. She wanted to invite me for coffee to thank me, not just for that night in the ER, but for indirectly showing her the kind of family she was almost marrying into. I said yes, of course. Not out of curiosity or to hear the drama, but because sometimes the most important connections are born in the most unexpected moments. We're friends now, by the way. Real friends. I haven't gone back to family gatherings. I reply to some of Mom's messages, polite but distant. Sarah texts occasionally, trying to rebuild something between us. Daniel, as expected, has never reached out. I'm not looking for revenge or anything like that. Life already dealt the cards the way they needed to fall. All I want is peace within myself. And every morning, as I put on this white uniform that my family thought so little of, I remember. It was this uniform that freed me from begging for a place where I was never going to be enough. You know what's funny? When I help a patient and see the gratitude in their eyes, I sometimes think about how our actions, even the small ones, even the quiet ones, have the power to change lives. Sometimes, even our own. And that, my friends, is worth more than any damn New Year's dinner. If you're reading this and you have someone in your life who's the nurse of the family, or the artist, or anyone who doesn't fit your family's cookie-cutter mold of success, do me a favor. Celebrate them. Truly. Because you never know when the person you're underestimating might be the one who ends up saving someone you love. Sometimes, respect and appreciation don't come from where we expect. Family should be our first refuge, but when it's not, we have to learn to value ourselves. The universe has mysterious ways of balancing things out. And the talents others dismiss may be exactly what connect us to the people who truly matter. Did you enjoy this story? Don't forget to subscribe to Story Confessions, hit the like button, and leave a comment telling us if you've ever felt like your family didn't appreciate your accomplishments. Your stories help us create more content we can all relate to. And turn on the notification bell so you never miss one of our weekly stories.